This might be one of the last videos I ever make about the Lumix S9, but it's not for a bad reason. It's because I've spent over an entire year using this camera every single week, putting it through its paces and really finding out, is this a good camera? Is this the right camera for you? And has it been the right camera for me? There's a lot to uncover here, so grab a cup of coffee or your favorite snack and let's dive into what just might be one of the greatest cameras that Lumix has ever made. Maybe. Chapter 1. Addressing the usual concerns. The Lumix S9 has a handful of concerns. The single SD card slot, no internal fan, no EVF, no mechanical shutter, no hot shoe, and no headphone jack. After using this camera for an entire year, let me tell you which one has really affected me the most. None of them. Honestly, none of them have. Having used this camera for an entire year, all of the so-called cons of using or owning the Lumix S9 haven't been a bother, not even once. Well, maybe one, but we'll get to that one. The S9 having all of these drawbacks that I just mentioned hasn't stopped me from creating amazing content with this camera. I mean, okay, you know, it's a cold shoe, not a hot shoe, but with the reality of how most content shoots are nowadays, where video is so important, it's very likely that you're doing both photography and videography at a shoot, which means that it's more likely you'll be using continuous lighting rather than flashes. So with that, it doesn't really matter if it has a cold shoe or a hot shoe, because you don't need a flash. However, I do understand if you are just doing shoots with which you need flash photography, then yeah, fair. The S9 just isn't for you. All right, but what about this single SD card slot at the bottom of this thing? Honestly, hasn't bothered me once. I mean, I like to use two SD cards in my S5 Mark II. I have one as the main recording SD card, and the other one is where the proxies go. That way, when I shoot these talking heads, there's already a proxy file made, and I don't have to worry about doing that in DaVinci Resolve. But I can't do that with my S9, and honestly, that's okay. Not being able to film proxies with the S9 hasn't really been the end of the world. It either means I just generate some proxies, or at the very least, DaVinci Resolve is very stable and my laptop is fairly powerful. So majority of what I shoot on the S9, it can handle no problem. It could probably handle these talking heads I shoot on my S5 Mark II, especially considering it's the same sensor and everything. But I just do it because once you layer like 6 things in a row and all these effects and color grading everything, then things can slow down a bit, so you know. But having to generate it from the files I shoot on the S9 because I can't do it in camera, it's not the end of the world. That said, if you do need a second SD card slot because you shoot things like weddings, be it photography or videography, I hear you. You need that constant backup just in case. The S9 just isn't for you. You know what? I did it again. The aircon is on. But speaking of air conditioning, there's no internal fan on the S9. And you know what? I haven't noticed. Once you turn off the time limit recording on this camera, you are then free to let your camera get nice and toasty as it records on end and until, you know, the battery dies or it overheats or whatever. But I live in a country where it averages like 30 degrees plus every single day. It's humid. You know, Bangkok gets hot. I'm sweating every day. But this camera, whilst admittedly it has gotten fairly warm, like borderline hot, I have not had it once show me the overheating symbol. So even though there's no fan inside, if you're in a cooler climate than Asia especially, I think you'll be fine. It's funny because a buddy of mine just had his S1 Mark II overheat on him, and he lives in America, and I assume he's just shooting non-stop. He was doing 6K though. Depending on what you shoot with, that will affect how this thing gets hot. I only shoot 4K. I rarely shoot 6K now unless it's for a specific reason, but 90% of what I shoot, 99% of what I shoot is 4K. So I guess take my point with a pinch of salt. If you want to do 6K all the time, your camera will get hotter, but I've never had any problems personally. I'm not saying it's impossible to make the S9 overheat. There's tons of videos where they've shown that it can. It's just harder than you think with realistic ways of filming.
Editing MC here. I was actually able to get the S9 to overheat.
There was some lightning and thunder last night. I was recording in 6K, and when I came back to my camera, for the first time ever on my S9, I had the overheat warning saying that the camera had to cool down. Now, this was after about 40 minutes of non-stop recording in 6K open gate. 6K seems to be the culprit here for getting cameras hot and bothered. Recording in 4K, I can go for much longer, but in all honesty, I don't really record for super long periods of time anyway. So still, like I said, if you're doing realistic recording where you record for like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, I think you're never gonna have a problem with overheating this camera. Now, the lack of a headphone jack, honestly, I don't care. I don't even use the one on my S5 Mark II. If that is important to you, then fair enough. But I feel nowadays with content creation, there's the audio meters bar on my screen right now on the S5 Mark II. I bring it up on my S9 if I need to, but also the DJI Mic 2s use 32-bit flow. I can scream into them, I can whisper, and no matter what, I can fix it in post. So it's not important to me. If it's important to you, that's fair, but there are workarounds. Like if you get a microphone that itself has a headphone jack, then you've resolved this problem already. Even a lot of lavalier systems can resolve this problem by the receiver having a headphone jack as well. So there are ways around it if that is an important thing to you, but honestly, as someone who's created a year's worth of content with this thing, I haven't noticed. And now for the thing that I feel actually was kind of upsetting, right? This bugged a lot of people. This even bugged me for quite a while until eventually I just got used to it not being there. And it's the lack of an EVF. There is only a screen on the back of the S9. It's a decent screen, right? It's fairly bright. It holds up pretty damn well. I'm not gonna say it's the best thing in the world, but I don't think it's bad at all. It does a good enough job that in sunny Bangkok, I can see my shots all the time. Honestly, I've never really had a problem with it. Now I do get it. It's a small camera, street photography. You just want to go like ka-ching and get the photo. I totally get that. And for the longest time, especially when I first got it, I would raise it instinctively up to my eye to then only remember, oh, there's nothing there for me to look at. So let's bring it back down and use the screen. And now really the way I got over this was I just changed my shooting habits. Rather than leaving the screen like this when I first turn on the S9, I always flip it out so that instinctively, rather than wanting to bring it up to my eye, I am forced to look down at it because the screen is already flipped out and up for me ready to observe what I'm shooting. There is no EVF. It is what it is. Like, it's not the end of the world. It's nice to have, but you kind of get used to it. And being really honest with myself, using my S5 Mark II, which does have an EVF, I still use the screen about 90% of the time because I'm mostly shooting video. Now I know for photography, using an eyepiece is a great thing to use, but even for my photography purposes, I was still using the screen most of the time anyway. It is nice to do this when you have a straight on like portrait shot that you're doing or whatever. I get that, but using a screen is still a good option as well, so I just kind of got used to it. Whew, okay, and now that we've got the usual complaints out of the way, let's get on to the good stuff. Chapter 2, what I love about my S9. Let's start with the obvious. The S9 is a tiny full-frame camera. It's tiny by full-frame standards, at least. When you bear in mind there's a big sensor in this little camera, it really does open your eyes as to how much engineering has gone into this particular camera. That small size makes it really easy to bring anywhere with you. I mean, maybe not your skinny jeans pocket, but it can fit into any of my camera bags and even my jacket pockets when I used to wear a jacket. And that's pretty great because a smaller camera that's easier to bring around with me means it's a camera that I'm going to bring to more places, which means that I'm creating more often. Taking it around the city of Bangkok is extremely doable. The size factor of the S9 is also what makes it my everyday carry and the perfect vlogging camera. Capturing creative shots of myself walking around the city of Bangkok or vlogging to the camera as I walk around for these videos are much easier to do with the S9 than the S5 Mark II, for example, just because of its size and weight. No idea where I am right now. cool how low profile the S9 is, even when you're out in public. Doesn't really draw much attention, which is a nice side benefit of using such a small camera. You guys want to see something wild? This was 10 baht, right? A bottle of water. This fresh coconut juice, 20 baht. Prices on screen for British pounds and USD. Do you know how much a bottle of water is in London? It's £4. Make it make sense. How low profile the S9 is making it very easy for me to vlog right now. Like, I mean, I see this as my job and I get paid for doing this, so that's helped me get over the fears of vlogging, but there's always gonna be anxiety because people will look at you, but at the same time, I know they're gonna look at me, be like, ah, he's doing that, and then forget about me in like 10 seconds. Oh, so good. The other great thing, of course, about using a smaller camera for vlogging is you don't need to bring as big of a bag. This is the new satchel over the shoulder bag. Review coming out on it very soon. Loving this bag a lot. The S9 is so small that I can fit other cameras in here along with another lens if I need to. I can squeeze quite a bit into this bag, but the S9 being so small, it also allows me to do that. I do have a bag smaller than this that also allows me to carry the S9 and one lens with it, but at least in this bag it's kind of like a good in-between. Not to give this whole review on this bag, but just lends to the whole point of you can use smaller camera bags when you have a smaller everyday carry camera. On a side point, remember how I said the S9 is not waterproof or weather sealed or anything? Well, the rains are coming. You literally watch the buildings in the distance disappear to gauge how far away, bless you, how far away the rain is. It's pretty nuts. The rain here don't play. The rain here does not play. The S9 only weighs 486 grams, and that is with a battery and SD card inside it. Throw on a small and light lens, and you've got the perfect lightweight everyday setup. The true power of the S9 comes from what's underneath the hood. The sensor. Was that too corny? I don't know. This is the exact same sensor as what is in the S5 Mark II. That means it can do everything from 6K open gate, 4K up to 60 frames per second, 1080p up to 180 frames per second. It also has a 30 frames per second burst shutter mode for photography. It has the same 14 plus stops of dynamic range, and it has a 24 megapixel sensor. It's no wonder it's so easy to create good photos and videos with this camera. Shots are sharp, the colors are great, and the detail is there. We've got 24 megapixels, which is more than enough for photography, especially considering most of it's going to end up on Instagram or so your phone. And 6K is more than enough resolution for all of your video needs, especially again, if you're doing social media type stuff. That's not all the S9 is packing though. The S9 came out with a feature that was brand new to Lumix cameras: real-time LUTs. This feature really changed the game for content creation, but I'm going to touch on that more so later on in the video. Chapter 3. How I've learned to work around its flaws. The S9 is not the perfect camera, and that is okay. It has its flaws, and I think really what matters more is, can you work around or with the flaws that a camera has? Are they truly a problem for you? I think it was extremely apparent when this camera was released that it was not for everybody. I mean, not to bring up old drama, but everybody was just angry at this camera. I think they were angry at people because they got flown to Japan and then they made a video about a camera. Oh, my backlight. No. Why did it do that? This isn't dead. Surely it's not. Yeah, did it overheat? Overheat alarm. Wow, my little G M60 light overheated. That's not great. Right, now that I've fixed that, what was I saying? Which I don't want to comment on the whole Japan drama too much, but the way I see it is, regardless if it was in Japan, the UK, Bangkok, America, whatever, if a camera comes out that is just cool and is appealing to a lot of people, and also it's like, hey, Here's a great piece of content that you can probably post onto your channel and will probably get a lot of views, because being real here, as a content creator, I plan my videos in a certain way where it's about something that I'm interested in, but it's also something that is likely to get watched by people, because at the end of the day, I do want to make this my career. So those numbers and those aspects of content creation do matter. If you don't find the video interesting, you're not going to watch it. And if people don't watch it, then I don't get noticed by brands for sponsorship deals. And ultimately, it kind of makes the experience of YouTube a bit less rewarding, should I say. I'm not saying that every video, the goal should be to get rewarded by viewerships and it's all about money, money, money. It's not. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy helping you. I've been having a lot of comments recently from you guys about the S9, discussing things, asking me questions, and I've even had some emails from you guys, which have been very, very nice. And I really, really love this part of YouTube. Connecting with people, creating a community, and just having fun talking about cameras, discussing different things, helping each other get better. That's what I love about YouTube. So when everybody blew up over, oh, Lumix shill, you're just trying to sell us this camera and that camera, I just saw it as for what I think they were. Videos about a camera that you might be interested in, you might not be. And honestly, I was very interested. And from you watching this, I'm guessing you were too, because I mean, I'm sure you can agree, this is a pretty damn good camera. It's not perfect, it's not for everybody, it's not a sports photographer's wet dream of a camera, but I personally love this camera a lot, and I think it works for a lot of people too. Okay, now the whole drama thing's out of the way, let's get back to the main good bits of the video. Here is how I fixed some of the flaws of the S9. The first thing is the grip. Yes, this is a laughable grip. It's kind of funny, I kind of like it. It matches the small size of the camera. You get a cute, small little grip, just enough for your thumb. My thumb fits pretty comfortably there. I'm guessing this is an average size thumb space, right? If you have bigger hands, then maybe it's not enough, I don't know. But there's not really much else to grip onto here with the camera, and I would be lying if I said that this thing doesn't slip out of my hand from time to time. But there are two ways that I remedy this. The first is with this small rig cage. Now, I have taken it off of late because I'm just really enjoying how the camera feels, well, naked. But this cage does add a good grip to the camera. And as a bonus, you get a bunch of mounting points, which means doing things like a POV shot, where you attach a magic arm to the camera and then maybe use a clamp on the other end to attach the camera to things for a cool POV shot, and things like that. They're all possible, so, you know, you get a little 2-in-1 bonus with this cage. And then the other way that I remedy the lack of grip is with this Peak Design wrist strap. Now, a little side review here. This Peak Design strap, I can honestly say is the best purchase I've ever made as a content creator. It has supported every camera I have ever owned. The strap, the strength between the little attachment hook and the strap itself has never shown any sign of breaking, weakness, or even wearing down. I used to use it when I had a Red Scarlet W, and I would honestly test it out by letting the camera hang off of my wrist. Don't worry, I had my other hand ready to catch it, but it can hold incredibly heavy cameras. So holding something like an S9, it's a walk in the park. Like, so easy to do. And at the end of the day, if I let it hang off my wrist, it's not a big deal and it's safe. But if you do want extra grip, this camera cage, which I cannot remember the exact name of, small rig make like a billion things, but it will be linked in the description below if you guys want to check it out, which, by the way, all the links below are affiliate links. So if you do choose to purchase something through those links, you're supporting me and supporting the channel, for which I thank you very much. The lack of EVF was a tricky one to try and fix. Now, in all honesty, I told you what I do already. My remedy is I just use the screen and I get comfortable with it. But if you do still want to have the option of a viewfinder, there is one accessory I think might kind of scratch that itch for you, and it's this. This is an optical viewfinder. Now, I personally haven't used one, but I know my friend George has. And whilst they do look really cool, there's maybe two problems that you should consider with them. First of all, they attach to your hot or cold shoe. Well, it's a cold shoe on the S9. And with that, it isn't perfectly lined up with what your camera sees. It gives you a pretty good estimation on what your camera is seeing, how the framing is. And you know, for that, that's cool, right? That's still pretty cool. Actually, on terms of what the camera sees though, you'll have to set your exposure using the screen because it's optical, it's not a digital, it's just glass that you're looking through here. Which leads me on to the second problem, which is it's only for certain focal lengths. You can buy a variety of these, and if you're using those prime lenses with the S9, then cool, you have a pretty damn accurate representation of what your camera is seeing. But if you wanted to use like a zoom lens like the 28-60, well, you can't really use the optical viewfinder then, so it's kind of redundant. But I can imagine for my street photography peeps out there that if you do own one of those lenses and you do want to have that experience of using an EVF again, well, at least you can kind of have it. And finally, the last problem, the electronic shutter. Honestly, that is the fix. An electronic shutter can cause banding when taking photos in low light. That's really the only con about it. Whilst this isn't great, the best fix for it is actually just a different camera. All of the so-called limitations of the S9 don't make it a bad camera. It just means you need to think about if it fits into your workflow. And that doesn't make it bad, because a bad camera couldn't create shots like this. You know what's funny? I had a conversation with George earlier last week, and he pointed out how you get to a certain stage in your content creation journey. And by content creation, I'm just summarizing filmmaking and photography into one bucket. And he said you get to a point where you can even get a bad camera to create great images and even decent video. And I found that very interesting because he's right. Once you know the basic principles of photography and filmmaking, it's applied generically across all cameras. And really, with how good most cameras are nowadays anyway, you could pick a random camera and probably get some awesome shots out of it. Most cameras do 10-bit, they have a log profile, they have 4K. That's all you really need. So the S9 being a really good camera, you can get some pretty damn good shots out of it, as you guys have just seen. I mean, yes, I'm biased because they're my shots, but I'm very happy with all the things that I've shot on this thing. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Chapter 4. Why the S9 does 90% of what I want it to do.
The S9 does 90% of what I want a camera to do. It's small enough that I can use it everywhere and bring it anywhere, and it's powerful enough that it can capture all the kinds of shots that I really want to.
With features like 6K open gate, 4K 60, 1080p 180 FPS, 30 FPS burst photo mode, a super high resolution photo mode, dual native ISO for low light shooting, the L mount, which is an incredibly versatile mount, best in class IBIS, and finally blazing fast autofocus. At last.
The S9 doesn't get in my way. It lets me focus on creating, which is what a good camera should do.
Now you may note that I said 90%. So what is that extra 10%? Honestly, it's features that would be nice to have, but aren't full necessities for me to not buy the camera if it doesn't have it. Things like 4K 120 frames per second. I got to play around with that feature with the S1R Mark II, which you can check out the video at the end of this video for, and it was really, really cool. I see the hype over the whole FX3 shooting 4K 120 and now the S1 S1R2 shooting 4K 120. It's a cool feature, it's a lot of fun. But I'm not gonna use it all the time, maybe not even that often at all. So it wasn't a deal breaker for it not being on the S9. And then I would say all the other drawbacks of the S9, they're nice to have, but they're not necessities for me to create the content that I make. So it does everything I need. And for those situations where I need that extra 10%, I need a mechanical shutter, for example, I need the second SD card, for example, the S5 Mark II will be the camera that I pick up, and that's okay. Having said that, I respect not everybody can buy and own two cameras. I have bought these two cameras, the S9 and the S5 Mark II, myself with my own money. I sold old gear I saved up from work and I bought them myself. Lumix have sent me stuff in the past, but it was always on a lending basis. I had to return it after a couple of weeks. Usually these ranged from lenses to try out to the S1R Mark II I mentioned earlier. So if you can only afford to get one camera, and if it's between the S5 Mark II or the S9, I would just say between the budget side of things, see which camera really suits your shooting needs. Yes, a mechanical shutter and all the things I mentioned, they're nice to have, but if you truly don't need those things, the S9 is a very good choice. Chapter 5, how the S9 changed how I shoot. The S9 changed how I shoot video because of one of the amazing features it has. Real-time LUT. I've already brought this feature up briefly in this video, but to fully understand how important this feature is, we need to have a chat. The real-time LUT feature is all about saving time. As creators, we spend hours on this stuff. From planning to actually shooting the content to editing and coloring, it can take days to finish our project because of the amount of time that each step takes. That is why I see the S9 as being one of the most powerful cameras that Lumix has ever made. With the press of a single button, I'm able to save myself hours from the color correction and color grading process. Having uploaded all of my LUTs onto my camera or sent myself some via the Lumix Lab app, I can effortlessly apply a creative look to my footage in seconds, rather than spending hours deciding if I'm gonna go with a teal and orange look or a teal and orange look. Just pick the teal and orange look. It's always gonna be teal and orange. You can make this feature even better through the My Photo Style picture profile and blend my adjustment LUT with your LUTs to give yourself more control over your image. This works great for those instances where the LUT has made your image too contrasty and you lose some details in the highlights or the shadows. You can bring them back with adjustment LUTs and maintain full control over your log image and still color the shot in seconds rather than hours. The S9 might not have all of the bells and whistles of its bigger cousins, the S1R Mark II and the S1 II, but that doesn't mean you should count this camera out for your next purchase. Because depending on the kind of creative you are, this could be all that you need from a camera. I know for sure that this is a camera that I will be using for years to come. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful in any way, please hit the subscribe button. I upload Lumix content all the time and filmmaking and photography stuff as well, having fun with it and reviewing gear, and headbutt the like button while you're down there just to make sure that YouTube sends out this video to more people just like you. Now there's more Lumix S9 content for you guys to watch with these videos here, and if you're curious about the S1R Mark II that I mentioned earlier in the video, you can click on this video over here and I'll see you guys there.